The stars burned quietly in the endless dark. For the Galactic Federation's fleet, this region of space was usually calm, with only drifting comets and dead rocks to disturb their patrols. The fleet moved in steady formation, dozens of warships cutting through the void like silent guardians. Their duty was simple: keep watch over the frontier, prevent smugglers from slipping through, and make sure no unknown power tried to trespass into Federation territory. Admiral Sarath, a tall, scaled alien with cold golden eyes, stood at the command deck of the flagship Orion's Spear. His kind had served the Federation for centuries. He was proud, disciplined, and not easily shaken. Yet today, something unusual flickered across the sensor screens. "Admiral," reported the sensor officer, his long fingers tapping over glowing panels. "Unidentified vessel detected at Vector 092 by 310. "Speed? Impossible, sir." Sarath frowned. "Define impossible." The officer hesitated. "It is traveling faster than allowed by any known hyperdrive class. Its route cuts directly through subspace turbulence zones. No ship should survive a passage like that." The Admiral's tail twitched in irritation. "Display it." On the wide holoscreen, the image of a small, oddly shaped vessel appeared. It was nothing like Federation designs. Its hull looked almost fragile, patched with uneven plates of metal. No sleek curves, no shimmering alloys, no graceful alien symmetry. It looked crude, primitive. And yet it moved through the void with confidence, ignoring dangers that should have torn it apart. Sarath narrowed his eyes. "What species dares fly such a ship?" The officer checked records. Cross-referencing, match found. Species, human. Classification, young civilization. Estimated galactic presence, minimal. Homeworld, Earth. Murmurs rippled across the command deck. Humans. A name most officers had only read in reports. They were newcomers, barely a century into space travel. To find one of their vessels here, so far from their small cluster of colonies, was bizarre. "Open a channel," Sarath ordered. "Let us see what they want." The comms officer activated the link. A moment later, the image of a human captain appeared on the screen. She was young, wearing a dark uniform without the elegance of Federation attire. Her hair was tied back, her gaze steady. "This is Captain Elena Ramirez of the Earth vessel Dauntless," she said in fluent Galactic standard. "We come in peace, requesting no hostility." The words shocked several officers. For such a young race to speak the Federation's tongue so clearly was rare. Usually, new species struggled with translators for decades. Admiral Sarath leaned forward. "Captain Ramirez, you are in restricted space. Explain how your vessel reached this sector without passing through recognized hyperlanes." The human captain smiled faintly. "Our ship is testing a new drive system. We are explorers. We meant no harm." Her calm voice only deepened the Admiral's unease. Explorers? A human ship moving at speeds no alien vessel could match? Something did not add up. "Conduct a full scan," Sarath ordered quietly. "I want to know exactly what powers that ship." Technicians obeyed at once. Streams of data filled the screens as the Dauntless was analyzed from hull to core. Then, silence fell. "Report," Sarath demanded. The chief science officer, a pale creature with luminous eyes, spoke slowly, as if uncertain of his own findings. "Admiral, this is not possible. The human vessel does not use antimatter. It does not use fusion. It does not even use quantum sails. Its core manipulates local spacetime directly." The Admiral's claws dug into the armrest of his chair. "That is not possible." "Yes, sir," the officer replied nervously. "And yet, it is." The fleet officers exchanged uneasy glances. For thousands of years, the Federation had relied on hyperdrives, massive complex machines that folded space along narrow, safe routes. The technology was ancient, perfected long ago by races older than Sarath's people. It was considered the peak of engineering. No young species had ever leapt beyond it. And yet, here was a human ship, breaking every law the Federation believed unshakable. "Perhaps it carries stolen technology," one officer suggested. The science officer shook his head. Negative. Its materials are crude. Iron alloys, composites, nothing advanced. Every part appears handcrafted. Yet the design works, though by principles we cannot fully decode. Admiral Sarath stared at the screen, where Captain Ramirez still waited patiently. Her ship hovered calmly among the massive Federation warships, fragile, yet fearless. Impossible, Sarath whispered. And yet, it exists. For the next several hours, the Federation fleet shadowed the Dauntless. No one dared fire, though the warships could have crushed the human vessel with a single volley. The mystery was too great. Messages were sent back to the Federation Council. By the time replies returned, the fleet's officers had already begun to argue. Some believed the humans were dangerous, too reckless, too bold, too unpredictable. Others whispered that this might be the dawn of something greater, that perhaps the stagnant galaxy needed new blood. Sarath kept his thoughts hidden. He only knew one thing. He had looked into the human captain's eyes and he saw no fear. That unsettled him more than any strange engine. When night cycle fell on the fleet, Sarath stood alone at the viewport, watching the Dauntless drift quietly in formation. He had commanded battles against pirate kings, against rebellious empires, against ancient monsters rising from forgotten voids. He had seen bravery, cruelty, genius, and madness. But never had he seen a primitive ship carry the impossible in its heart. And never had he felt such uncertainty about the future of the galaxy. For if humans could do this now, so early in their history, what would they become in 1,000 years? Sarath did not know, but he feared that the galaxy was about to find out. The station known as Vera 9 floated like a silver crown above a quiet gas giant. It was neutral ground, home to scientists, diplomats, and travelers from many species of the Federation. Its long spires and rotating rings glowed softly against the background of endless stars. To most crews, docking here was a routine matter. But when the Federation fleet escorted the human vessel Dauntless into one of its hangar bays, the entire station seemed to pause and watch. For many, it was the first time seeing a human ship up close. The vessel looked crude compared to the shining curves of alien craft. Its metal hull carried scars of welding, dents from past travels and heat marks where engines had burned too hot. And yet it had crossed the galaxy in ways no other ship could. That alone made it a thing of awe and fear. Admiral Sarath walked at the front of the delegation as they entered the docking bay. Behind him followed officers, guards, and scientists, their eyes locked on the human crew waiting at the foot of their ship's ramp. Captain Elena Ramirez stood at the center, flanked by a few officers in dark uniforms. They looked simple, almost plain compared to the bright robes and polished armor of the Federation. But their stance was firm, their gazes steady. Captain Ramirez, Sarath said, his voice echoing slightly in the hangar. You will come with us. The Council demands answers. Elena inclined her head politely. We are willing to cooperate. But understand this, we are explorers, not criminals. We will answer your questions, but we ask for respect. The Admiral's golden eyes narrowed, but he gave a small nod. Then follow. The questioning chamber was vast with transparent walls that looked out upon the swirling gas giant below. Around a circular table sat scientists of a dozen species, their eyes glowing, their limbs shifting, their minds sharp with curiosity. They had been waiting for this moment. The humans entered calmly, taking seats across from the alien assembly. Elena placed her hands flat on the table, a gesture of openness. Her crew sat quietly, letting her speak for them. The chief scientist, an elder being with translucent skin, leaned forward. Captain Ramirez, your ship has been scanned. Our instruments confirm it uses no antimatter, no fusion, no technology known to us. Explain. How does your drive function? Elena smiled faintly. It is simple, though not easy. Our scientists studied the mathematics of space-time. We learned to bend it directly, rather than force it with energy. Our drive does not fight the universe. It flows with it. A murmur spread through the chamber. The aliens whispered to one another, voices tense. To them, the words sounded like madness. Entire empires had spent ages trying to bend space-time more efficiently. None had succeeded. Sarath's tail twitched behind him. Captain, do not insult us with vague poetry. What you claim is absurd. Elena met his eyes calmly. Perhaps. But your own scans confirm it works. The chamber grew silent. The humans' quiet confidence unsettled everyone. The elder scientist pressed further. How did your people discover such a principle? Did an older species gift it to you? Did you find ancient ruins? Elena shook her head. No. It was discovered by trial and error, by curiosity, by stubbornness. We tested, we failed, we tried again. It was not a gift. It was earned. The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. For most species, technological leaps came from long chains of inheritance, passed down by older civilizations, or stumbled upon through luck. The thought of a young race creating something entirely new, so early in their history, was frightening. The questioning continued for hours. The scientists demanded schematics, equations, proof of materials. The humans gave careful answers but never revealed too much. They spoke of ideas, not blueprints. They explained principles, not secrets. One insectoid researcher clicked its mandibles angrily. You hide details, why? Elena replied evenly, because knowledge is power. We will not hand over something that defines our future. We are willing to share understanding, but not control. Her words struck deep. Many in the chamber realized what she was saying. Humanity knew its position was dangerous. Yet instead of fear, they showed strength. Admiral Sarath studied her in silence. She was young by his standards, yet her composure rivaled that of seasoned leaders. He began to understand why this new species was unsettling. It was not just their ship, it was their spirit. Outside the chamber, the station buzzed with rumors. Word of the human vessel spread quickly. Pilots whispered about it in mess halls. Engineers argued about it in workshops. Diplomats speculated in shadowed corridors. Some were curious, others jealous, many afraid. Imagine if they share it, one alien murmured in a cafe. Every world could cross the stars freely. Or imagine if they use it for war, another replied darkly. No empire could stand against them. For the first time in centuries, the Federation felt uncertain about its place in the galaxy. Later, when the questioning ended, Elena was escorted to a private chamber overlooking the stars. Admiral Sarath entered after her, dismissing the guards. For a long moment he said nothing, only studying her face. Finally he spoke. Your ship is dangerous. Do you understand that? Elena nodded. Of course. Every ship is dangerous in the wrong hands. No, Sarath said firmly. You misunderstand. It is not dangerous because of weapons. It is dangerous because of what it means. Entire empires will fight to control it. Some will fear you. Some will try to destroy you. You have placed your people in the center of a storm. Elena looked out the viewport, watching the endless stars. We did not choose to frighten anyone. We only chose to move forward. If others fear that, it is not our fault. Sarath felt a rare unease. He had fought many enemies, but none like this. A young species with boldness enough to face the galaxy without trembling. At last, he said quietly, You are not ready for the weight this discovery will bring. Elena turned back to him, her gaze steady. Perhaps not, but we will carry it anyway. When she returned to her ship, her crew greeted her with quiet determination. They had heard the whispers, felt the tension, seen the fear in alien eyes, and yet none of them spoke of turning back. They were explorers after all. The unknown was their path. On the observation deck, Elena stood with her second officer, watching the distant fleets move like shadows among the stars. They do not trust us, the officer said softly. They don't need to, Elena replied. We only need to keep moving. And somewhere deep inside the Dauntless, the impossible engine hummed, bending reality with every pulse. It was more than a machine. It was a promise that humanity would not stop, no matter who doubted them. And across the galaxy, those who watched knew one thing for certain. The humans had brought something new into the universe. Something that could never again be forgotten. The news of the human vessel spread across the galaxy like a wildfire in dry grass. It began as whispers among scientists and soldiers on Vera 9. Within days, it became official reports carried by couriers to the Federation Council. From there, it spread farther, reaching merchant guilds, border colonies, rival empires, and finally the ordinary citizens of 1,000 worlds. Everywhere, one question repeated. How could a young race create something impossible? For centuries, the galaxy had lived under certain truths. Hyperlanes were the only safe paths across subspace. Hyperdrives required massive amounts of energy. No civilization, no matter how brilliant, had found a way to step outside those rules. The Federation had grown comfortable in that belief, but the humans had shattered it. In the council hall, a chamber larger than cities, delegates from hundreds of species argued with voices that thundered through the air. The hall's domed ceiling reflected their words, amplifying the chaos. "They must be stopped," one delegate shouted. "A scaled creature with sharp wings. If humans keep this power, they will become a threat to all of us." Another delegate, tall and crystalline, countered, "They have done nothing hostile. To punish them for discovery would be unjust. Perhaps they can share the knowledge?" "Share?" the winged alien hissed. "Do you not understand? If every race controls such a drive, borders collapse, fleets become useless, wars erupt without warning. The galaxy will drown in chaos." Voices clashed, each faction shouting over the other. Some demanded humanity be forced into surrender. Others argued for alliance. Some even whispered of eliminating them entirely before their numbers grew too great. At the center of the chamber, the council's speaker raised her long staff. The floor vibrated as silence fell. Her voice was calm, but her eyes carried unease. "We face a choice," she said. "Do we see humans as a threat, or as a chance to renew our galaxy? Fear will guide us to war. Hope may guide us to peace. But we must decide carefully, for once we act, there will be no turning back." While politicians debated, the scientific community was in turmoil. On research stations across the stars, engineers pored over fragments of data gathered from scans of the Dauntless. They replayed recordings, checked equations, and argued furiously. "It cannot work," one alien scientist declared, slamming a fist against a console. "Their calculations ignore half the stabilizing constants." Another shook his head. "And yet it does work. Their drive bends spacetime by exploiting resonance patterns we overlooked. It is crude, yes, but elegant, almost childlike in its simplicity." This realization unsettled many. For ages, the greatest minds of the galaxy had chased complex theories, believing the path forward must be infinitely difficult. But the humans, with their trial and error spirit, had stumbled onto a doorway everyone else had walked past. Some scientists felt admiration. Others felt humiliation. But most felt fear. Because once seen, the principle could not be forgotten. Even now, engineers across the galaxy tried to copy fragments of what they thought they understood. If they succeeded, wars would not be fought over light years. They would erupt in an instant, ships appearing anywhere at will. The balance of the galaxy trembled. On Vera 9, the humans remained under watch. Their ship sat quietly in its hangar, engines dormant but ready. Federation guards surrounded it, their weapons always aimed, though no order to fire had been given. Inside, Captain Elena Ramirez stood with her officers in the central chamber of the Dauntless. A projection of the galaxy hovered before them, dots marking where rumors and unrest had begun to spread. Her second officer frowned. "They fear us. More than I expected." Elena nodded slowly. "Fear is natural. We broke their rules of the universe. To them, that is dangerous." "Will they try to take the ship?" another asked. "They might," Elena admitted. "But they forget something. A ship is only a tool. It is the mind that built it which matters most. They cannot erase that." Her crew exchanged looks of determination. They were few, standing against an entire galaxy of suspicion, but none of them wished to turn back. They had traveled too far and discovered too much. Meanwhile, Admiral Sarath met privately with a circle of senior officers. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of data screens. The council debates endlessly. One officer growled, "They are blind to the danger. Humans must not be allowed to keep this power. And if we move against them," Sarath asked quietly, "then they will be destroyed before they rise." Another officer shook his head. "No, they are resourceful. If we attack, they will resist. Worse, they will inspire others. The galaxy is full of suppressed species dreaming of freedom. Humans may become their symbol." Sarath listened to both sides, his golden eyes unblinking. At last he spoke. "You are both correct. Humanity is a danger, but also, they may be what the galaxy needs. We have grown too cautious, too stagnant. We fear the unknown. They do not. That is their power." The officers fell silent, uneasy with his words. Sarath knew he sounded almost admiring, but he also knew the truth. The galaxy could not remain unchanged forever, and perhaps, just perhaps, the humans were the spark that would set it aflame. Beyond Federation space, darker powers listened. Rival empires learned of the human discovery, and their leaders watched with cold interest. "If the Federation hesitates," one warlord said, "we will take the humans for ourselves. Imagine our fleets moving anywhere without warning." Others plotted quietly, sending spies, preparing traps. For them, humans were not explorers. They were tools to be captured, secrets to be stolen. The storm was growing. On the Dauntless, Elena stood alone at the viewport, staring at the endless stars. Her thoughts were heavy. She knew the galaxy was not ready for what humanity had created. She could feel the weight of suspicion pressing on her from every direction. Yet, she also felt something else, a certainty deep within. Fear was not the end of the story. Fear was only the beginning. "Let them fear," she whispered to herself. "We did not come to bow. We came to see what lies beyond." The ship hummed softly around her, as if echoing her resolve. And somewhere in the galaxy's heart, the first sparks of conflict began to glow, unseen but unstoppable. For the impossible could not be hidden forever. And once humanity had revealed it, the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy was restless. The Federation Council still argued without reaching a decision. Rival empires prepared their spies, and scientists whispered about equations they had barely begun to understand. But all that talk, all that fear, came crashing into reality one cold morning on Vera 9. It began with alarms. The station's outer sensors screamed warnings as a fleet of warships emerged from hyperspace. Their hulls bore the sharp black markings of the Keth Dominion, a rival empire that had long opposed the Federation. The Keth were brutal, cunning, and quick to seize any advantage. And now they had come for the humans. Inside the hangar, lights flashed red as the station shook from distant weapons fire. Captain Elena Ramirez stood with her crew on the Dauntless, listening to the chaos through comm channels. Keth ships detected, 12 cruisers, 2 battleships. A Federation officer shouted over the comm. "They demand surrender of the human vessel." Elena's second officer turned to her, face tense. "They're coming for us," Elena nodded. "Of course. They think if they capture our drive, they'll own the galaxy." The crew waited for her orders. She looked calm, but inside she felt the weight of the moment. This was the storm Sarath had warned about. On the Federation flagship, Admiral Sarath stood tall, giving commands with steady authority. "Form defensive lines. Protect the station at all costs. The humans are under our custody. They must not fall into enemy hands." His officers obeyed, though some cast nervous glances. Few truly trusted the humans, but letting them be captured would be worse. The fleets clashed above the gas giant. Energy beams carved across the void. Shields flared and missiles left burning trails through the black. The battle was fierce, but Sarath soon realized the truth. The Keth fleet was larger, better prepared. The Federation ships were being pushed back, and the station itself trembled, caught in the middle of the storm. Inside the hangar, explosions echoed through metal walls. Elena's crew could feel the danger closing in. "They can't hold them off forever," her officer muttered. Elena nodded. "Then it's our turn." She tapped the comm, connecting directly to Admiral Sarath. "Admiral," she said firmly, "let us fight." "You are not soldiers," Sarath replied harshly. "Your ship is untested. You would be destroyed in moments, maybe," Elena said. "But if we don't act, the station will fall and your fleet with it." "We can make a difference," Sarath hesitated. He hated to admit it, but she was right. His fleet was breaking and the Keth pressed harder every second. "You would risk your crew?" he asked. Elena's voice was steady. "We are explorers. Risk is what we do." For a long moment, Sarath said nothing. Then, slowly, he gave the order. "Very well, Captain Ramirez. Prove your words," the Dauntless roared to life. Its engines, quiet for days, hummed with impossible energy. The hangar shields parted and the crude-looking human vessel lifted into the void. Compared to the massive warships around it, the Dauntless looked small, fragile, like a bird flying among giants. The Keth ships immediately turned their fire toward it. Bolts of plasma streaked across the darkness, but the Dauntless danced away, moving in patterns no alien vessel could match. Elena stood at the command chair, her voice calm but sharp. "Prepare the jump system. Set coordinates." Behind their lead battleship. Her crew stared at her in shock. "Behind them?" "Captain, that's suicide." "Do it," Elena said firmly. The impossible engine flared. Space itself bent, folding like paper around the human vessel. In an instant, the Dauntless vanished, then reappeared directly behind the Keth flagship. Gasps filled the Federation comm channels. No ship had ever jumped like that in the middle of battle. It was madness. It was genius the Dauntless fired. Its weapons were modest compared to alien warships, but from that position, they struck directly at the enemy's vulnerable rear. Explosions ripped across the Keth battleship, forcing it to break formation. The Federation fleet seized the moment. "Push forward," Serath commanded, his golden eyes flashing. "They are vulnerable. Attack!" With renewed energy, the Federation ships surged, striking the distracted Keth. Meanwhile, the Dauntless vanished again, reappearing beside a cruiser that had been preparing to flank the station. Another volley tore through its engines. Again and again, the human vessel bent reality, appearing where no ship should be, striking like a phantom. To the Federation fleet, it was a miracle. To the Keth, it was terror. On the Keth command bridge, the warlord roared in fury. "How do they move like that? What trick is this?" His officers scrambled, trying to lock onto the small human vessel. But every time they thought they had it, it vanished again, space folding around it like a shadow slipping through fingers. "It's impossible," one officer muttered. "No ship can move that way." The warlord slammed his clawed fist against the console. "Then it is not a ship, it is a demon. Destroy it!" But try as they might, they could not catch it. The battle raged for hours, but the tide had turned. With the Dauntless striking from impossible angles and the Federation pressing forward, the Keth fleet began to falter. One by one, their ships broke away, retreating back into hyperspace. At last, silence returned to the stars. Wreckage drifted quietly, glowing embers fading into darkness. The Dauntless returned to the station, its hull scorched, its crew exhausted but alive. In the aftermath, the Federation fleet gathered their wounded and counted their dead. Yet despite their losses, one truth rang clear: they had survived only because of the humans. On the flagship, Admiral Serath addressed his officers. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with something new: respect. They did what we believed impossible. They fought not with strength, but with courage and invention. Today, the humans proved they are not to be dismissed. His officers bowed their heads, some in shame, others in awe. Later, Serath met Elena privately once more. She looked tired but unbroken. "You have shown us something today," he admitted. "Not just technology, spirit. You faced the Keth without fear. You saved us all." Elena's reply was simple. "We did what was needed." Serath studied her quietly. At last, he said, "The galaxy will never see you the same way again. They will fear you more than ever." Elena nodded. "Then let them fear. We will keep moving forward." Her words echoed in Serath's mind long after she returned to her ship. For centuries, the galaxy had lived in balance, each power holding to its place. But now that balance was broken. The humans had been tested, and they had passed. In the silent void above the gas giant, the stars seemed to burn a little brighter. The Dauntless rested quietly in its berth, but all who looked upon it knew the truth. This small, crude vessel, built by a young and stubborn species, had changed the course of history. And though the battle was over, the true test had only just begun. The battle above the gas giant had ended, but its echoes spread through the galaxy faster than light. Every listening post, every spy relay, every whispering diplomat carried the same message. The humans fought the Keth and won. It was not just that the Dauntless had survived. It was how it had fought, appearing where no ship should be, striking like lightning, vanishing before the enemy could respond. To the Keth, it had been terror. To the Federation, it had been salvation. But to the galaxy at large, it was something else entirely. It was a revelation. On the neutral station Vera 9, life had changed overnight. The humans were no longer just curious newcomers. They were the center of attention. Delegates lined up outside their hangar, some bringing offers of alliance, others bringing veiled threats disguised as polite requests. Scientists begged for more access. Engineers tried to sneak close to the ship, and soldiers stood guard day and night to keep the curious at bay. Inside the Dauntless, Captain Elena Ramirez sat with her crew. They were exhausted, still carrying the weight of battle, but their eyes were alive with something stronger than fear: pride. Her second officer leaned forward. "The whole galaxy knows our name now." Elena nodded. Yes, and that means our path just became more dangerous. In the Federation Council, the debates reached new heights. The chamber, vast and echoing, was filled with shouting voices. "They are a threat," cried one delegate. "Did you not see what they did? A single human ship humiliated the Keth fleet. If one vessel can do this, what will 10 do? What about 100? Another delegate shook his head. "Or perhaps they are the hope we need. The Keth have pressed against our borders for decades. Now we know they can be defeated. With humans beside us, the Federation will be stronger." "But what if the humans turn against us?" shouted another. "Then no border will stop them. No fleet will contain them." The Speaker of the Council struck her staff, silencing the chaos. "Fear blinds us. We must see clearly. The humans have changed the rules of the galaxy. We can choose to treat them as enemies, or as allies. The choice will shape our future." But even as she spoke, no true decision was reached. Too many feared. Too many doubted. Meanwhile, Admiral Sarath returned to his flagship, his thoughts heavy. He had watched the humans fight with his own eyes. He had seen their courage, their boldness, their impossible machine. He stood alone at the viewport, gazing at the stars. "They will either save us or destroy us," he whispered. When he finally visited the Dauntless again, he found Captain Ramirez waiting. She greeted him calmly, though both knew the galaxy beyond was spinning into chaos. "You proved yourself," Sarath said quietly. "But now the galaxy sees you differently. You are no longer explorers. You are symbols." Elna tilted her head. "Symbols of what?" "Of change," Sarath replied. "Every empire fears it. Every citizen wonders if it is hope. You have become the center of a storm you cannot escape." Elena's gaze was steady. "We never wanted to control anyone. We only wanted to see what was out there." Sarath gave a faint smile. "And yet by looking outward you have forced all of us to look inward. That is your true power." Word of the humans reached even the smallest corners of the galaxy. On mining colonies, workers spoke with awe. "If humans can break the rules, maybe so can we." On hidden worlds, oppressed species whispered, "The Federation is not unshakable. Change is possible." The revelation was not just about the drive. It was about humanity itself. They had no great fleets. They had no vast empire. They had only a single ship, a handful of explorers, and a spirit that refused to bow. And somehow that was enough to shake the galaxy. But the danger was far from over. In the dark halls of the Keth Dominion, the warlord who had fled the battle swore revenge. "They humiliated us," he growled. "We will not rest until humanity is ash beneath our claws. Build new fleets, hunt them, crush them." Other empires, too, began to plot. Some sought to steal the human secret, others to enslave them, others to destroy them before they grew too strong. The storm Sarath had warned of was truly coming. One evening, Elena gathered her crew in the observation chamber of the Dauntless. The stars stretched before them, endless and cold. "We stand at a turning point," she said. "The galaxy will never see us as simple explorers again. They will fear us. Some will try to use us. Others will try to destroy us. But we must remember why we left Earth, not for war, not for power, but for discovery." Her crew listened in silence, their faces lit by starlight. "We may be a spark," she continued, "and sparks can burn. But they can also light the way. We must decide what kind of fire humanity will be." Her words settled deep into their hearts. They knew the road ahead would not be easy, but they also knew they would walk it together. The next day, the Dauntless prepared to leave Vera 9. Federation escorts stood ready, though many officers still looked uncertain. Some saluted the human vessel as it passed. Others watched with suspicion. Admiral Sarath stood on his command deck, watching as the Dauntless moved toward the edge of the system. His second-in-command approached quietly. "Do you think we made the right choice, Admiral? Letting them go?" Sarath's golden eyes stayed fixed on the screen. "It was never our choice. Humanity chose for themselves the moment they built that ship. And as the human vessel's drive flared, bending reality one more time, the Admiral whispered to himself, 'The galaxy will never be the same.' The Dauntless vanished into folded space, carrying with it not just a crew, not just a discovery, but a truth the galaxy could not forget. That humans, fragile and young though they were, carried something greater than technology. They carried the unshakable will to step into the unknown. And that will was the most powerful force of all.